We are now going to speak to Erez, but I see.
Hello.
Shalom, Erez. How are you?
Shalom, shalom. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm supposed to be there right now, sitting next to you, but unfortunately, your government didn't let me in.
Oh, sorry about that. But soon we will meet somewhere around the globe.
Of
It's very
course,
exciting to be here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Do you
so
see my screen or not yet?
we only see a white screen. Is that supposed to be white or?
No.
Maybe
Okay.
not, yeah. So what you need to do is minimize anything you're not using and just have the presentation already open before you share.
Yeah, okay.
And then you can select it.
Yes. 1 second. You can start speaking, Philip. It's completely fine by me.
Where are you?
Actually, I'm in a shared space because there is construction everywhere in Tel Aviv. So this is also something that gives hope. If you have a lot of noise around your house, you can find very nice and extremely minimalistic spaces that you can make your lecture from, right? So yeah, let's see. 1 second. So I'm here in a very beautiful space. Is it now on or not?
Yeah, now we can see it. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, so I'm in the shared space, and hello everyone. Hello Lee. Hello Karen. It's Oded. It was an amazing one. Also Galit. Thank you so much for everything you said. It really gives hope. And yeah, let's start, Philip, and speak a bit about vegan design.
Absolutely. So the reason that we wanted to invite you here today is because the design sector has been so slow to address the use of animal products in manufacturing. And that's really what your work is being an activist for or against. So the leather, fur, and natural fiber industries are notorious, but beyond these materials, countless other products, as you know and as you've studied, include animal-based oils and ingredients from brushes to tapes to most plastics and most industrial glues. So with animals increasingly acknowledged as sentient beings by governments all around the world, and hopefully Israel will soon be one of them, as well as Australia, and growing public knowledge about the cruelty that surrounds livestock farming, it's time for the design community to grow a conscience and evolve new solutions. And you, I think, are an example and a leader in this movement. So these are the kind of questions you've been asking. How long will we continue to sponsor practices with which most of us don't associate in our own daily actions? What would be the substitutes for animal ingredients in sanding paper, in glue, wood, wax, and paint to accomplish the design of a vegan wooden chair? Is it possible to reach a level of purity and virtue in 100% animal-free vegan design? And I think that you're going to give lots of examples today and lots of inspiration to many other creatives that are out there. So first of all, I wanted to mention to everybody that I've been following with Lee Erez's work since you were in the Design Academy, actually, what, 8 years ago, something like that, maybe 10?
10 almost, 2012, yeah.
And Lee and I remember your mycelium project, which was very ahead of its time even then, which was actually not your graduation project, but your first year project. So that's, how early you can spot talent. And we had the pleasure of exhibiting this project in the Design Museum Holon when we were working with Galit earlier. And I think it was in the Gathering exhibition, although my memory is not so great on that detail. And so I wanted to first talk about, since we're looking at this image of really a material experiment, what was your favorite material that you sort of discovered?
The favorite. I won't choose a favorite because like it's all. I don't have kids yet, but they are my kids for now. So I would say, yeah, let's speak about this specific one because I think it was a great discovery for me. Like it was the first project that I did, second project I did at Design Academy, arriving to a class with the master of materials in the Netherlands, Vincent de Rijk. And he asked us in the class to produce a recipe for a new material that we can hand over to someone else and he can reproduce it. And I think, yeah, I choose to speak about this one specifically because, yeah, it was the first real discovery that really got a lot of attention from the outside scene, from outside of the academical world. And just by mix and match of materials in the kitchen of my house in Eindhoven, and to have like so much attention to something that started in such a small point. I think this was extremely surprising for me. And basically what I did over here is just taking a material that I knew from my past. I grew up in a plant nursery and surrounded always by natural materials, and you're going to see it throughout the presentation. And I wanted to use a material that is quite familiar to me, that I will be also maybe a bit surprised what can be done with it. And taking like listening to the great master, to Vincent, and understanding the process of experimenting with one material and making like maybe 100 different options, we reached to this outcome in which we are combining a few different natural materials, and the soil is being baked, but while it's being baked, there is a chemical reaction that make it rise and double inside. And also when you take it out, it becomes extremely constructive and strong. As and we see here, we started making seats to allow people to sit on it and show this is with the mold actually. And this one is just after, well, like, so I made like a real series of seats that are coming out of soil that is strong, constructive, biodegradable, and yeah, quite great starting point at Design Academy, I would say.
Yeah, you're sort of like a cook, but also like a farmer.
Yeah, exactly.
Together.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, you're collaborating with the forces of nature, with Mother Nature, as well as the elements. In one of your projects, you went to the Dead Sea, which of course is famous for its amazing salt. So can you tell me a little bit more about the Bleached project that you did there?
Yes, definitely. I would start a bit with some context about this. Basically, when I'm speaking, I'm sorry.
Why did you decide to go there of all places?
Yeah, I was in the Netherlands. It was extremely cold over there. And I said, like, I want to write my thesis in a warm place. So I chose the Israeli desert. And when I came there, I saw like a magnificent white mountain that I couldn't understand what's the connection between all these brown dunes and suddenly seeing a white mountain in the middle of the desert. Researching a bit, I've come to realize this is a mountain of salt, NaCl, which is a byproduct from the manic production of bromine and potash from the water of the Dead Sea. And each year they have in these ponds, what we are looking at right now, it's a pond. So basically I'm working in the context of the ponds, not in the natural sea. So it's almost a factory. It's not almost, it is a factory that produces these valuable materials and leaves all the non-profitable materials there. And think about it, salt used to put the world in motion like 100 years ago, and it's now being produced way faster than it's being consumed. So it's not economical for the factories to clean the salt and try to sell it. So it's just being piled up over there and layered for almost 30 years. And when the government asked them to do something with it, they decided that they're gonna hold and they're gonna take all this salt and they're gonna trash it back to the natural sea. And I was a bit, okay, this is a great opportunity. Designer that wants to be in the desert, in a hot spot, and create something with a free material. It's there, just use it. So the graduation project was trying to offer a very practical project. I would say blocks and tiles that are made for architecture in this area, made out of 100% pure salt. And when finalizing this project, I came to these factories. They didn't want to listen. Yeah, they didn't want any solution. They thought it's not for them for now, let's say. And I decided that I want to continue and working within this area with a more conceptual approach, so more artistic, something that is directed more to my education, let's say a design academy. And it's then when I started working on two different projects. One of them is salts, in which I'm looking at the Dead Sea as the most vegan place on earth, let's say, and using the crystallization of the salt as replacement for the non-vegan glues. So the salt is starting to crystallize around the stools and acting as a second skin that plug or make the whole piece as one, constructive and strong. And later on, when I started working on my first solo show for Friedman Bendam, they wanted me to bring something that deals more with the salt, with the 20 million tons of salt that is being piled up over there. And then I started using loofah. Loofah, it's a natural sponge. And sponge, as we know, absorbs into it liquid materials, and started creating stitching these different formations and structures out of salt, placing them into the ponds, into the water of the factories. And little by little, these salt pumps, I call them salt pumps, that extract the neglected salt, started to crystallize. And this is the outcome of 7 months underwater. I think it was 12 kg of salt coming out. It's not much, but it's addressing the idea that there is a beautiful material over there that is being neglected, and someone needs to point and put a light on it. I called it bleached, as the structures really looked like corals. And as we know, bleached corals are dying corals. And I think this was a nice way to addressing the situation at the Dead Sea these days.
Yeah. Which is not so dead after all, maybe, if it's growing material like this.
Yeah.
And could these objects could also grow coral if ever they're in the ocean, I guess. They would be the beginning of a new coral reef.
With the loofah, yes, but with the salt, no, because the percentage of salt in the Dead Sea is 33%, and in the ocean is around 3%. So it will dissolve with the passage of time.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, so wait a second. Before we go on, a lot of people, when they hear your name, like I remember the first time I heard your name, I thought, who is this Indian guy? Who is this Italian guy? So maybe you need to first explain what does your name mean and where does it come from?
Okay, so Nevi Pana, yeah, it's quite unique. In Israel, we are the only family, maybe even in the world, I never checked it, but in Israel, we're definitely the only family. And it was quite hard when I was young to pronounce this name in Hebrew. It's very difficult letters and nobody knows how to read it. But like there was no connection to my Iraqi roots, nothing. And before I traveled to India, the first time we were looking at the map, searching for a specific area. And within this area, we discovered a little point, a small village named Nevi Pana, not Nevi, which is, with a bit of research there and before, I've come to realize that this village is used to do tradings of fabrics and textiles and cotton yarns with Iraqi traders. And as I knew before, my ancestors, my grandparents, they had a textile factory in Iraq. So this was the perfect link. They collected the name of this village. And since then, the rest is history. Everybody is wondering about this last name. And in these images, you could see a project that I created there in India with cotton that is coming from this specific area in Nevi Pana, where they're growing it, and dyeing it with indigo, which if you think about the meaning of indigo in Greek, it means from India. So trying to merge the place that I came from and the color from India and uniting them together as my aspiring unity form. Yeah. So,
well, it looks pretty gorgeous to me. And in fact, textiles have been in your DNA from the beginning then.
yes, definitely.
And we'll talk more about your textiles later on. But since you're speaking about India, a lot of the people who are watching today and also later on online, they're perhaps questioning if they should change their lives, change their jobs, change their diet, change their way of producing or just consuming. When you were in India, you studied a philosophy which is called Ahimsa. Maybe do you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe its impact on your design philosophy?
Yeah, we're going to speak. I think there are two projects that address this. One, the first one is from my own point of view of this principle. Ahimsa speaks about non-violence towards animals. And when I look at this picture, I understand from my point of view, a different kind of, let's say, of violence of humanity towards nature and animals. And when reaching to India as a vegan and understanding that I have to be responsible, yeah, I come to consume the country, the craft, the resources, the ideas in a way, you know, their professional way, and also sometimes their philosophy. And I felt that I have to be extremely I have to be responsible for the materials that I leave behind me without having any system for, let's say, reusing these products that I buy. And what happened is that I started collecting the leftovers. Let's say if I drink, I have the plastic bottle. If I eat outside, I have the newspaper on which I ate. And I started collecting this and the trash that I produce myself. And instead of taking it back with me, I started molding the trash and weaving baskets around that. And if thinking about Ahimsa, the principles of nonviolence, I think nonviolence is not specifically about your food, it's or the clothes that you wear, it's also the materials you produce with, and also the materials that you leave behind yourself. So all these baskets were shipped to New York for exhibition there. And unfortunately, I really wanted to leave them inside, but at the end we decided that we are going to recycle them in New York. So they found their place in a recycle bin. But at the same time, thinking about the materials, the amount, look, each basket over here represent the amount and the volume of the materials that I was supposed to leave behind myself. So you have great impact, if you look on the right side, it's 2 weeks. The middle one is 5 days of trash. The one on the left, it's 7 days. So think about all the materials that you leave behind you and the volumes, they're quite big. And also one last thing about this one, that the glazing we produce also from the nuts that we were eating during the process of weaving. Yeah.
Amazing.
So
well, they're super beautiful objects. I haven't really seen them in person, so I would love to see them one day in person. I remember the last time we were together, we were in New York, and you asked me if I knew any big producers of furniture that you could connect with to make a big vegan leather couch, or to make lots of leather vegan furniture with them. So has anybody reached out to you since we last saw each other?
yes, there are always, we spoke with Moy back then. We had a great link with them. At the end, like I had to focus at least for now, I had to focus on my PhD research and dive into the research as much as possible. Although I get some offers from big companies as they see me as the leader that holds the flag of veganism in design. And this is something I was trying to maybe push back a little bit, because I want to see as many designers collecting this idea and starting to work with these principles. So for now, I'm waiting till the book of the PhD will come out, and later on, yeah, bring it on, please.
I'm sure you'll be ready. So, well, I think that, Lee would call you an aesthetic activist, because what you're doing is also so beautiful, and there is a sense of beauty and poetry to everything, I think, in your work. I'm in Australia, and I remember that a year ago you were part of the Triennale here, and the Bleached project was exhibited. It was very beautifully shown. And I'm sure you're working on a whole bunch of stuff that's ready to be exhibited in the next few years.
Yes.
When we talk about poetry in your work, I think that one of the most poetic works that I've seen is Unraveled, another textile piece, because of the way that it uses silk. But maybe, I don't know, you have some other images on the screen first. Did you want to describe those?
We can just give a few points about, thinking about the use of veganism, the use of the word vegan in the world today. It's quite trendy, and we could see so many people. We could see many people collect this idea. And when you ask me what is it about, and I see it as a really holistic approach to life that you have to assimilate in all levels of life, if it's in the food, in your clothing, in the production processes, and the materials that you use. And one of the last projects I was asked to make is for the Jerusalem Design Week, trying to deal with the idea of the use of animals in circuses. And I decided that instead of going into maybe the heavy, tough way of living in the circus, I'm just going to bring an alternative for this and use tens of plants with animal attributes or animal names within them. So we have the jellyfish, we have the spider plant, and all of them are merged into a big garden that is moving and performing and showcasing an alternative for the use of animals. And I think this is exactly what veganism is about, having this perspective in all aspects of life. And I remember when I wrote the opinion for the zine, I wrote something that everybody was so, they were shocked from it, because I wrote that you cannot be ethical at work, but cruel at home. And I still believe in it. I still believe that you have to go all the way with, if you believe in sustainability, and you know today that veganism is the fastest way to reduce your footprint on planet Earth, then go with it all the way and bring alternative. And this is one of the alternatives. And another alternative, I'm sorry, tell me if I speak too much, Philip.
No, go ahead.
We wanted to speak about La Terrace, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it. That's something from your past because you're such a intellectual activist. But what was the terrace, or is it still around?
Yeah, it's still around. Hopefully, we're going to come back very soon. But when graduating from Eindhoven with such a thick research and quite thick thesis, we were asked to come to the graduation shop only with objects, and this was quite surprising to me. So I decided with a bunch of friends to open an option for designers in Eindhoven first, and later on outside all around the world, designers, thinkers, poets that can start making their design processes, but they can they can finish the process even just with a text. And we were exhibiting text on the walls alongside the objects themselves. So, and linking poetry, text, quotes inside one space that exhibits the beauty of the written word of our language. And I think this is something that we quite manage, because the Here Later Design Academy were linking the usage of poetry in design. So it was quite a good starting point to address this thing as well. So,
well, the word or the pen is always mightier than the sword. So I think you, like many people, understood the power of manifestos and the written word.
Yeah.
So is the next few images relating to Unraveled, or is it for something
Yeah,
else?
we are in
Unraveled.
Unraveled, yes.
So these are the little turning wheels that they use to spin silk.
Yes, basically in the silk industry, and they are boiling the silkworms, the pupa, alive inside the cocoon. They are not letting the whole metamorphosis cycle of the natural one of the silkworm to become a pupa and then a moth that is coming outside of the cocoon, because when it's coming out, it breaks the yarn, and instead of getting 1 kilometer of yarn, they get little segments. Mm-hmm. And we've unraveled. What we did is that we pointed a specific process that is just a natural one. We let the moth come out of the cocoon, and after it's coming out, we collect the silk and start making the yarn, then weaving it into textiles. But what we did also within this process is taking the baskets on which they were growing the silkworms, unraveling them and weaving them into the silk itself.
Beautiful. It's my favorite one. And
yes.
we exhibited what was it, 2 years ago in Lille, in the exhibition there. And so all of these pieces, you know, I know that you're represented by Friedman Bender, but is there any other place that people can collect your work from? Because basically they are like functional art objects, would you say, or how would you describe them as far as people collecting them?
Yes, they are being collected mainly by museums and collectors that has extremely nice collections. I'm being represented exclusively by Friedman Bender, so all the pieces go from them through them today. Yes.
That's not too bad, not too shabby. So when you were just talking about the power of writing your thoughts down, and I remember one of my favorite Milan exhibitions ever was this one, which was called Vegan Design. And I remember reading it in the Interni guide. You just open it up and it says Vegan Design. And it was just so powerful that it had arrived as an exhibition, I thought, in Milan. And then when we got there, I think it was in Alcova, you had these amazing large mounds of material, these big installations, which were so in a way, powerful and overwhelming. I think, overwhelming with beauty, but also overwhelming with presence. It was curated by Maria Cristina. She's an amazing Italian design curator who is now the design editor at Wallpaper. But maybe you can talk a little bit about how you worked with her and the whole message and the manifesto behind what was written by hand on this wall. The people can't really see it on the screen, but all of those words were actually handwritten. So it was very beautiful.
Within 3 days of work, handwriting it. So yeah, basically I met Maria Cristina at the Design Museum in Holon, where Galit did her last show with Nando, and she wanted me to exhibit my salt research. So thank you, Galit, because this rolled into an amazing collaboration with Friedman Benda and also Maria Cristina, which we work in really closely since then. And within this project, we took a risk. She took a risk, obviously, but all of us took a risk because in a way, I was addressing the materials that we use in the design scene. I was addressing the atrocities of animals and linking them into each and every single object that you could see in the greatest show on earth, let's say. And beside criticizing the design scene, I was looking at our blueprints the blueprints of humanity and our morals and ethics. So it was a bit harsh one, but also I think quite simple because it brought the truth outside and in a very simple way. Trying to deliver to the audience the idea and the depth of how deep this industry is and how rich this industry is, that we can find beside, let's say, wool or skin, we could see the hair or the blood or the bones of an animal being assimilated inside materials and products that we will never imagine that are not vegan. And this is what we wrote, this is what I wrote on the manifesto, trying to address this issue. And by simple I think 5 or 6 mounds of materials, and placing next to it all the first outcomes of my vegan research, we managed to touch so many people. And it, in a way, it created, I'm saying it in a modest way, I think it created a movement in the design scene.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, I think that's a good place to end. It's been wonderful to see you.
Thank you
hopefully
so much.
we'll be able to catch up again soon somewhere.
Yes.
And I hope that your work has inspired many people today to make steps towards being nonviolent in their consumption and in their lives.
Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And yeah, be good. Let's be good. We have hope. I'm optimistic. That's definitely. Yes.
Definitely. Thank you, Erez. And so now we're going to